The ocean covers 70% of this planet. And most of it has never been seen by human eyes. In 2009, a deep-sea research vessel called the Ariana was mapping the ocean floor 400 kilometers off the coast of Chile. 18 crew members, 6 scientists, all professionals, all experienced. At 2:14 a.m. on March 3rd, their sonar picked up something on the ocean floor. The shape was enormous, clearly man-made, sitting at exactly 3,200 meters below the surface. They sent down a camera drone. At 3,000 meters, the drone's cameras picked up something that made every single person in that room go completely silent. A ship. Sitting on the ocean floor, perfectly upright, perfectly intact, as if it had simply been placed there. And on the hull, still clearly readable after decades underwater, was a name. The Santa Catalina. A ship that had officially never sunk. This is Voces del Abismo. The Santa Catalina was built in 1962, a Chilean passenger liner, one of the largest ships ever built in South America at the time. She carried passengers between Valparaiso and Buenos Aires, twice a month, for 11 years. On the night of July 14, 1973, the Santa Catalina departed Valparaiso, carrying 340 passengers and 87 crew members. She was scheduled to arrive in Buenos Aires in 3 days. She never arrived. 3 days passed, then 4, then a week. The Chilean and Argentine navies launched the largest sea search in South American history at the time. Aircraft, submarines, dozens of ships. They searched for 6 weeks. They found nothing. Not a single piece of wreckage, not a life jacket, not a body. 427 people simply gone. The official conclusion was that the ship had sunk in a sudden storm. But there had been no storm that night. Not a single other ship in the area reported unusual weather. The ocean that night was perfectly calm. When the research team of the Ariana identified the name on the hull, the lead scientist, Dr. Carmen Vasquez, immediately pulled up the historical records. What she found made no sense. The Santa Catalina had disappeared in open ocean, 700 kilometers north of where they were currently sitting. A ship does not move after it sinks. But there it was, 700 kilometers from where it vanished, sitting perfectly upright, 3,200 meters below the surface. Dr. Vasquez guided the drone along the exterior of the ship. The hull was intact. No signs of explosion, no signs of collision, no signs of storm damage. It looked as if the ship had simply been lowered into the ocean, gently, carefully, intentionally. Then Dr. Vasquez directed the drone toward one of the passenger cabin windows. She turned the drone's lights to maximum power and aimed them directly through the glass. What the cameras showed was later described by every member of that research team as the most disturbing thing they had ever seen. The cabin was perfectly preserved. A coffee cup on the table, still upright. A book left open on a bed. A small child's shoe in the corner of the room. 36 years underwater, and the cabin looked as if the passengers had simply stepped out for a moment. At 4:47 a.m., 2 hours after the drone first reached the ship, something happened that no one on the Ariana could explain. The ship's radio received a transmission on a frequency that had not been used since the 1970s. The transmission lasted 47 seconds. It was recorded. What the recording contained was a human voice. A woman's voice, very calm, speaking in Spanish. The full transcript of what she said was never officially released. The Chilean government classified it within 48 hours of the Ariana returning to port. But one crew member, a junior technician named Pablo Reyes, had made a personal copy of the recording on his phone. He leaked a partial transcript to a journalist in 2011. And what those words said with, "We are still here. We have always been here. The water did not take us. Something else did. It is still here with us. It has always been here with us. Do not come down. Please, do not come down." Despite the transmission, despite everything the drone had shown, Dr. Vasquez made a decision that the rest of her team would question for the rest of their lives. She decided to send 2 divers down, not all the way to the ship, just close enough to collect samples from the exterior hull. The 2 divers were Miguel Fernandez and Sofia Rios, both experienced deep-sea divers. They descended on a tether line. The team above could see their depth on the monitors: 100 meters, 500 meters, 1,000 meters. At 1,400 meters, Miguel's camera feed went dark. Just static. Then Sofia's feed went dark. Dr. Vasquez immediately ordered them to ascend. She pulled the tether line. The line came up. But the divers were not on it. The line had been cut, not frayed, not snapped, cut. Cleanly, precisely, from below. Miguel Fernandez and Sofia Rios were never recovered. The Ariana remained at the location for another 6 hours, waiting for any sign of the divers. At 11:23 p.m., the drone that had been left tethered near the ship below suddenly went dark. Then, the sonar picked up movement, something rising from below, fast. Dr. Vasquez ordered the crew to look at the water. At 11:31 p.m., something broke the surface. It was the drone, floating face up. But the drone had not malfunctioned. When they reviewed its final footage, the last 17 seconds before the feed cut out showed something moving through the water. Something large, something that moved the way a person would move if a person could survive at 3,200 meters below the ocean. The last frame of the footage shows a face. Close enough to touch the lens, eyes open, staring directly into the camera. Dr. Vasquez identified the face in that final frame as Sofia Rios, the diver who had gone missing 4 hours earlier. The Ariana returned to port the following morning. All footage and equipment was immediately confiscated by the Chilean government. Dr. Vasquez was placed under a non-disclosure agreement. She has never spoken publicly about what happened that night. Pablo Reyes, the technician who leaked the transcript, disappeared in 2013. His case remains open. The Santa Catalina is still down there, 3,200 meters below the surface. Still perfectly intact. Still perfectly upright. And according to 3 separate research vessels that have passed over that location since 2009, the radio transmission still broadcasts. Every night, at exactly 4:47 a.m., the same woman's voice, the same words. We are still here. Do not come down. Please, do not come down. "427 people disappeared on the Santa Catalina in 1973. Nobody knows what took them. Nobody knows what kept them. But every night at 4:47 a.m., they remind us that they are still there." This was Voces del Abismo. Subscribe, because the next story comes from somewhere even darker.